Well, this is a night of nights. We are here for infinite wisdom. My guest is the great, the wonderful, the woman whose shoulders we stand upon, Riane Eisler. Thank you so much for coming to speak with us this evening. I I am not going to go through a long introduction because it's going to be in the notes, and I'd rather just get into a chat, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Most people know that you wrote the seminal book, The Chalice and the Blade. I don't want to start there. I want to go into the Wayback Machine and talk about your incredible childhood, which was unique. And I like to look at what may have formed the person who wrote The Chalice and the Blade. So can you take us way back?
Yes, I certainly can. I was born in Vienna, and shortly after I was born, I was a young child. The Nazis came in, that was the Anschluss, and on Kristallnacht again, Gestapo men came to our home to drag my father away, and my mother stood up to them when she could have been killed.
Just tell us how old you were when you were in Austria and then moved away, and we didn't hear what happened with your dad.
Well, I was 7, and I was exposed, of course, to both witnessing violence, insensitivity, cruelty, especially on Kristallnacht. When I was there, just kind of Gestapo men came to our home. But I also witnessed the other side of our coin, so to speak. Enormous capacity for love, for sensitivity, and for courage, but not courage as we have been taught, to kill the dragon or something like that, but the courage of what I today call spiritual courage. The courage to stand up against injustice out of love.
Well, you witnessed that at age 7.
Yes, so I had a role model in my mother. Um, and of course, she could have been, as I said, killed that night, but by a miracle, she wasn't, because she recognized one of the young Gestapo men who came as a former errand boy with the family business. And she got furious. She said, "How dare you do this to this man who has been so kind to you, to me, to you, to everyone." And she, by a miracle, the head of the group of this gang um, basically said, I'm abbreviating here.
Yes.
Bring so and so much money to Gestapo headquarters and we'll give him back to you.
Oh my goodness.
And so she saved not only his life, but our lives, because we would have stayed behind, hoping, like so many families did, that my father would be released.
Released. Oh my goodness. So he came.
They first came for the men.
Yes.
And so that really my passion for this work is to answer these questions that arose in my childhood when we have this capacity for caring, for love, for sensitivity. Why has there been so much cruelty and insensitivity? Is it true that we're often told that that's just human nature? Is it inevitable, or is there an alternative? And years later, after I was really prepared, and my life is very much like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle coming together by many, many life experiences for this whole systems research. I sought to answer this question, but I included in my database the whole of humanity, both its male form and its female form, and everybody in between, the whole of our history, including that long period, millennia really, of our cultural history that we call prehistory, and of course also where we all live, really, in the whole of our lives, including our family, our childhood, our intimate relations.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with this answer that there is an alternative, but we can't see it because our consciousness is so fragmented by our domination heritage, including, and then I'll stop, the conventional social categories of right, left, religious, secular, Eastern, Western, Northern, Southern, capitalist socialism, which really, if we think about it, there have been regressive, repressive, violent societies in every one of these categories.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, if we also really think about it, they all marginalize or just ignore the majority of humanity, women and children.
Yes. Woof. Okay.
So there. Right?
So there. Okay. Bye, everybody. We're done. Kidding. Okay. What you saw at such a young age put such a question mark in your mind. How could this be happening? How could this be true, as you just explained? And that seemed to be a quest then that you followed up. But I want to go a little bit step by step here, because you left Austria and you went to a completely different culture. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, because it was part of my preparation for this calling. Um, we were on one of the last ships, by the way, to Havana, to Cuba, before the St. Louis was turned dark.
Aha.
My parents were able to purchase an entry permit to. It was one of two places in the world that admitted refugees from Nazi Germany.
I don't know if everybody knows that there were ships at sea crossing to the U.S., crossing other places, and they were turned away.
It's correct.
And just absolutely gut-wrenching to think about that. But Havana was one of the ones that said, yes, come here.
Yes, until it didn't.
Until it didn't.
Until it didn't. Until the St. Louis, and then all of the passengers had entry permits that they had purchased, and they refused to admit them. In cahoots with the Nazis.
Yeah, under pressure.
So very early in my life, and then we came to the United States after 7 years in my parents were tremendous role models for me in a way because they were business entrepreneurs.
And what was their business?
Well, what were their businesses?
Oh, I always say.
Because you couldn't, they had protective labor laws in Cuba.
Well,
Time, and so you couldn't get a job. You know, you had to start your own business. And my father came home one day with an alligator skin, with a sewing machine, and a tailor. And he started the business of making fine alligator goods.
Oh my goodness.
For tourists, which were not the norm in Cuba at that time. So he really, and my mother always worked with him, but of course he got, the credit. That was the norm in the States. So he really, he and my mother, they built up this factory, and but they never saw Cuba as more than a sort of temporary thing.
What a shock, though, because Austria and Cuba are
in the United States.
Well, yes, but even just that first step is 180 degrees separate, right? And you had to learn Spanish, and you had to learn this easy breezy way of being. It's very different from Austria.
The music is different. The people are different.
Yeah.
They're both Catholic country, predominantly, but that was a very important lesson for me, being an outsider.
Mm.
And I discovered, after desperately trying to fit in, that actually being an outsider was an advantage for my multidisciplinary, cross-cultural, transhistorical, whole systems research.
Is that because you could be an observer?
I think that as an outsider, you have to be an observer. And so, and also I realized that what was considered normal, just the way things are in 3 different places, was different in very significant respects. So I really was able to see that what we call, quote, reality really depends on our awareness of it. And that's the crux of that.
Beautiful. Okay, so then you went to the States when you were about 14, 15?
Yes, 14, I came to the United States.
And where were you?
Well, first to Florida, where we were. It was hot and it was racist, and Cuba was, I mean, quite racist, but it had a mulatto, Batista, as a president. I mean, you know, so it was a matter of a degree.
Yes.
But it didn't sit well, so then we tried New York, and it was too much. And eventually we ended up in Los Angeles, and that was it. I mean, nowhere else to go. And my parents went into a completely different business.
Yeah. What was that?
I said they were really role models for me because they were business entrepreneurs and I'm an intellectual entrepreneur. If you want to look at it from that perspective. I mean, I do became a cliche, meaningless, thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
But I had no choice. So, and my father lost a fortune on tie-dyed silk because it was ahead of his time.
Yeah. What year are we talking now?
Well, we're talking 47, 43.
Oh, if only he was 20 years later, 10, 15 years later.
Yeah, that's right. And eventually he became interested in building and became a real estate person, owning some properties. So they always landed on their feet. They were my parents, and I guess I am, having lived this long, I am too.
I guess you are. So were you the only child?
Yes.
Okay.
My parents already then realized that they didn't want to have any more children in a world that was so dangerous, as it is now, of course.
So when you went through high school, and then did you decide to go on after that? And how did you decide what you wanted to study?
Well, I changed my major many times, but I graduated in sociology and anthropology, and I had 1 year of law school. And then I got married, and of course, like women were supposed to, it was a norm. And really, in that time, in the 50s, early 50s, I quit. And it was only 10 years later, on my way really out of that marriage, my first marriage, that I went back at the UCLA Law School because I had very good grades to waive their completion requirement. But my life experiences during that period of these 10 years really also prepared me for my research because, for one thing, my research is whole systems research.
Yes.
And, systems research wasn't exactly a everyday term
Right.
in the 50s, but I got a job after I married my first husband at the Systems Development Corporation,
Oh.
which was an offshoot of the RAND Corporation. And they thought they were doing systems research. Of course, they weren't. They were interested in military systems, and they certainly were not interested in including the majority of humanity in their research. So that was preparation, but also becoming an attorney and also practicing law for a while was very helpful because with systems recognition, with pattern recognition, because you have to debrief cases, and a client certainly doesn't come into your office and say, would you apply section 1222 of the such and such code? No, I mean, they come with a story, and it's up to the attorney to figure out what is the applicable case law or the applicable legislation. So a lot of this was training. And even my interest in prehistory, I remember in Cuba, I went to private schools with much better education than in the United States. But I remember very well that Mrs. Kirby was her name, and she mentioned, she brought to my attention that there was such a thing as prehistory, and it fascinated me as a child. And
When you use that term prehistory, what are you meaning? Just so we're all clear.
well, you know that Homo sapiens, Homo, I mean, yeah, everything is male centered, is quite old.
Yeah.
And certainly for much of the time, what really, as I found out through my research, what really matters so much is what kind of cultures we develop. And for millennia, we lived in cultures that oriented much more to what I call the partnership rather than the domination system, or rather because it's a continuum, really, with partnership on one side and domination on the other. But it took me a while to think differently outside of those conventional categories, and it took feminism to really make me understand that much of what we have been taught has been a disservice to both women and men.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
everybody in between, certainly, because it has focused on, quote, great men and their conquests, right? You know, that's you have to memorize grammar school, what were the battles and who won, who lost. And this is domination history.
So when you just back to the prehistory a little bit, because that's a fascination of mine as well. Are you talking about the more maternally oriented communal societies that worship the goddess, worked with nature, and that kind of thing?
Yes, but I want to really make a very, very important distinction. The alternative to patriarchy, from my perspective, isn't matriarchy. It's partnership. there never was a matriarchy, even though some of the societies like the Minoan, for example, today, who are really partnership societies, call themselves matriarchies. But semantically, like feminism, which is an exclusionary term, and like matriarchy, which is an exclusionary term, a partnership isn't.
Well, I love that.
Includes men.
Yes.
It is, I mean, men have a terrible time. I mean, they're part of the hierarchy. I mean, they have to give nothing less than their lives because some guy on top of the domination pyramid wants more real estate, like a Putin, for example.
Yes.
But they get a sop, don't they? Because they get to be king of the castle of their home. And
Yes, exactly. For whatever worth that, how long ever that lasts, right? Because it always topples at some point.
well, it not only crumbles, but it is really unsatisfactory for, as I found out, because we tried so hard, you know, my first husband and I well, we were trapped really in these gender stereotypes. I was supposed to be the little woman behind the great man. But the thing about it is that women learn to manipulate, as all powerless people do. And power is defined in domination systems, of course. And to really go fast forward, the inclusion of family was so important because, as I found out, and I have changed. I mean, I know that transformation is possible because I was transformed. I mean, as an attorney, and I have to tell you that story. One, I wanted desperately to be in entertainment law. I thought it would be entertaining. It really did. Oh no. Anyway, I went to work part-time after I graduated UCLA Law School for, you know, Beverly Hills entertainment law firm part-time. And one day the headhunter firm invited me into the office to praise me for having in his eyes done something good in the case. And he meant this as a compliment, and what's worse, I took it as a compliment. And it was, you don't think like a woman. And, you know, of course, it was an insult.
Yeah.
To me as a woman, but I was so brainwashed.
Yeah. Wow.
That I mean, and I always tell that story because I think people find we're all traumatized. I mean, domination heritage, which we've changed, by the way. I'd really like to talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Well, all right. If you go back to about 300 years, I mean, there have always been periods, as I point out in all my books, of, if you will, resurgence partnership. And there have always been people who yearned for it. But about 300 years when the Industrial Revolution was going into high gear, one social movement, mass social movement after another, arose challenging the same thing, domination. Not taught is history that way.
No.
About it for a moment. The Enlightenment challenged the so-called divinely ordained right of kings to rule over their, quote, subjects. Then came the feminist movement, and it challenged again the so-called divinely ordained right of men to rule over the women and children in the, quote, castles, you know, military metaphor, of their homes. Then came the abolitionists, the civil rights, the Black Lives Matter movement, challenging again the so-called divinely ordained of a, quote, superior race, rule over inferior ones, all the way to the really environmental movement challenging again the so-called divinely ordained right of men, because that's what it said in the Bible, to have dominion, to dominate over others. And the peace movement challenging violence, which is built into domination systems, because how else do you maintain top-down rankings? The fear of pain, the fear of death. So, but we haven't been able to see this because of this fragmentation of consciousness. So, what I want to ask our listeners is to really think about the configurations. And you can go to our website, which is centerforpartnership.org, and look at the visuals. And it's all there. I had to develop, however, a whole new methodology, the study of relational dynamics,
So,
which looks at relations and at the relations of different parts of the system. And yes, childhood and gender are very important in both the domination system and the partnership system.
it's really helpful to start rethinking and unwinding and this stuff is so woven so deeply, our conditioning around this.
Yes.
Hey, sorry for the interruption, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that I'm bringing a group to Italy and Greece in October for a pretty big mission, and we need every big heart out there to join us. We're going to be trying to shift the masculine and feminine balance, or should I say imbalance, that's happening in our world today. So if you want to be adventuresome, sign up. You have until June 1st. Thanks so much.
I would love for you to talk about your 4 pillars, your 4 cornerstones. And I also would love for you to talk about the GDP, because and by the way, Riane has a wonderful TED Talk about this, and it's just brilliant. So this idea that what the GDP actually measures and doesn't measure. Can you go into that, and then let's talk about your 4 cornerstones?
Economics is one of the cornerstones.
Okay.
So I can start with that one because we have inherited from the shift to domination, by the way, happened with the Indo-European invasions, and DNA studies are now beginning to show that when the Yamnaya came in, there was a third wave of these Indo-European invaders. They got rid of the DNA, practically of the male DNA.
Oh.
The existing.
They overtook it so that it died away?
Yeah, so that it is. So we've inherited not so much of the women, because they took the women as wives, concubines, you know. But they really killed the men. So we know that, but it happened about 5,000 to 10,000 years ago, which is really a drop in our cultural history. And we have to remember that. Now, yes, 5,000 years, 10,000 years, it seems like a long time, and it is, but not compared to the period that we oriented more to partnership. And it's the configuration that matters. What we learned from prehistory is not to go back to any good old days, but we learn that what children observe and experience. I mean, my latest book is called Nurturing Our Humanity. It came out with Oxford University Press in 2019, and the subtitle says it pretty much, which is How Partnership and Domination Shape Our Brains, Lives, and Future.
Mm.
And they really do, because this, and I know I'm diverging here, but it's important for us to both really deconstruct first, but then reconstruct. And the reconstruction has to have the main components. And that takes us to economics and how the GDP is absolutely crazy. Because take, for example, a tree, right? We depend on trees to breathe. But trees are externalities. They're not counted in GDP until a tree is dead, until it's a log that can be bought and sold. Then it is part of GDP. Now, GDP was never intended to be the measure of economy. It was just intended to really be a measure of a certain part of the economy.
Mm.
And it is still used to this day. And of course, it does not measure anything outside of the market. So you can work from dawn to dusk as a mother, as we all know, in your home, and it doesn't show up in GDP.
Mhm. But going to war does.
But going to war, the investment in factories, in armaments, the export of arms. And by the way, the United States is one of the great exporters of arms, I'm sorry to say. So, but I keep coming back to one thing, which is that, yes, we've all been traumatized to some extent, but it's not a matter of blame or shame. We've inherited, and certainly our parents, I mean, blaming our parents is silly because they just did what they were taught to do. We are.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, that the domination system at our level of technology is no longer adaptive, evolutionarily speaking. We are interconnected now. And really, two physicists got the Nobel Prize in physics for their work on entanglement, interaction, at subatomic level. The truth is we're all globally interconnected, not only by technologies of transportation and communication, but by technologies of destruction.
Talk about that.
Well, nuclear bombs. I mean, that for our species, domination is no longer adaptive. And more slowly, climate change, of course, and that too is no longer adaptive. So we've got to deconstruct and reconstruct. And that really takes me to the four cornerstones.
Right.
We're not used to thinking of that childhood and family is one of the cornerstones of either domination or partnership systems. And it's not surprising, for example, that in the current global regression to domination, so much emphasis is placed on controlling what children observe, what children learn, right?
Yes.
I mean, or that gender, which is the second cornerstone, is so major. There are only male and female, and they're rigid gender stereotypes with nothing in between, nobody in between, even though there have always been people in between.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's kind of, but denial is one of really traumatized people.
Yes.
Be it this kind of denial, of gender fluidity, if you will, which is very much part of the partnership system. As we see all around us, we see all these men diapering babies, feeding babies, right? I mean, but you have to be really traumatized to say that that's not reality. I mean, I could go on and on.
Well, let me ask you, do you see any signs of hope in this department with all the gender fluidity that has been happening in the last
Well, look, I think that deconstruction, which we're seeing with our eyes, because it isn't just this massive regression and the loss of much that we have achieved, really, in our attempt, although not conscious, we didn't have a term for it. See, names, terms, language, that's of course cornerstone. Story and language are so important.
Yes.
Because if we don't have a name for an alternative, and I called, one configuration, the domination configuration, and the other, the partnership configuration. And it stands both the rigorous examination scientifically. I recently was inducted into the California Hall of Fame. I've been getting all kinds of honors. The Austrian government, the same government able to flee as a child refugee from the Holocaust, they awarded me an Iron Cross.
Oh my
for
goodness.
contributions to science and art.
Wow. Congratulations.
But art is a language, and we really have to look at art. I mean, you who are going to Italy and Greece. I mean, Greece and Crete really is
Yeah.
a place that you have to go. Unfortunately, getting a guide that will tell you an honest story about that is very difficult.
Yeah.
But Crete was probably the last, and it was, quote, a high civilization. The first paved roads in Europe, the first indoor plumbing. I mean, and if you look at the art, for example, the so-called procession fresco, you see a woman at the center, a high priestess or queen, with her arms raised in benediction, and priests on both sides,
Really?
bringing her food and wine.
Wow.
But they're all on the same level.
Interesting.
So you have to really carefully look at the art.
I will do.
And you see, for example, in Minoan Crete, that women are consistently the main subjects in the art.
Interesting.
And you don't have these, the Minoans, who, until the Mycenaean invasions, were the people who really lived in Crete. They honored both women and men.
So would you say that would be the last partnership civilization that
Well, that's the last one. No, because we certainly see trends today. The Nordic nations, for example, very quickly with regressions, of course, because change is not linear.
right?
all the way up. I mean,
Right.
at the Germany. I mean, to say that that was a civilization is ridiculous. You know, that's it's a really, our history is not the movement from barbarism to civilization.
Right.
No. Our history is much more complex, and it is really a struggle between the partnership and domination systems.
I've been diving into where the turn happened, you know, and you talk about the Indo-European invasions. Go ahead.
It's there, but putting the pieces together is very difficult because even in the academy, I mean, first of all, it's very siloed.
Yeah.
And so you really don't see the connections, and connecting the dots, that's systems analysis.
I guess I should have gone into that work because I am a dot connector. I love to do that. I love to find the different pieces and try to put it together. I was looking into the birth of monotheism as another sort of moment of domination structure, where we all of a sudden had one male solar god head, and with a man at the top of that being the connector between the god and the humanity. And that's the case for all three of the Abrahamic religions. And, right? And that really, that changed things quite a lot.
Well, it's so interesting because you read The Chalice and the Blade, and you read Patriarchy, who was both an archaeologist and many other things, found, as did other archaeologists, of course, that at the same time that we hear that there never was and never can be, right? Anything except the male god, the people on the ground still worshipped female deities. And the sacred marriage was still a big thing. You can't just believe everything you read.
Right. Boy, that's more true today than ever.
Well,
No.
we're going through AI.
Right.
And it's really accelerating, I think, the change, or it could accelerate the change.
For the better.
For the better, but it could also, it's a question of how AI is programmed.
Yeah.
If for domination, we've got every reason to fear it. If for partnership, most of the AI, though, is programmed with material from social media, and it's a disaster.
Very interesting. And I wonder if there's any way, just thinking of quantum entanglement, if there was any way we could affect how AI grows.
Well, you think about it, and a lot of people, including at the IEEE, are thinking about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It just occurred.
Using my frame. So it is important that we understand that we have these possibilities and that human nature, well, this whole argument between nature and nurture is really it's not nature versus nurture, it's nature and nurture.
I always thought so too. I thought it was the silliest thing I ever heard. I agree. Oh, good. Riane, is there a myth that you like to use as a metaphor? Is there anything that sort of is in favor?
We are used to myths, like both secular and religious, that idealize domination. I always understood that, for example, the Odyssey, that it is full of clues to an earlier time with all of these powerful female figures that are certainly monsters, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But what I really didn't understand is until recently, and you keep learning, as you live, how much the Odyssey and the Iliad idealize the hero as killer.
Mm. Mm.
And we've all been exposed to that, haven't we?
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we've been exposed to Eve and the apple, and
Well, that story is ridiculous because, when I was a kid, I always wondered why would a woman ask advice from a snake, because they don't usually do this. And it wasn't until I did the research for the Chalice and the Blade that I realized that the snake, look, remember the Oracle of Delphi already in Domination times? A Pythoness working with snakes. All of the statesmen of that time, it's already Domination time, came to this Pythoness who worked with snakes to ask for oracular advice. So Eve asking advice from a snake was part of the old story. But the new story was, and I always wanted to know, when I was a child, in the Bible it says, henceforth woman will be subservient to man. And I wanted to know, what was it like before the henceforth?
henceforth.
Yes. Nobody wanted to talk about it.
I'm sure not. What do you mean henceforth? We don't think about such things. And the oracle is in the Apollo's temple. She's in the male god's temple.
Male god took it over, obviously.
Oh.
Think of the Minoan priestess goddess figures with the snakes coiled around their arms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're in an oracular trance. And when I was interviewed for the Scientific American, one of the top editors interviewed me there, and she happens to be Indian. And she asked me, do you think that a snake bite can make, it's like having a bite from LSD or something.
To give you insight.
Give you insight.
Interesting.
But I'm not a guru person, because I think the guru model is
it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
This person is going to save you, which is nonsense. Of course, we're going to save ourselves or not.
That's right. That's right. Well, also, the snake is the caduceus. It's the healer. The
snake is part of the caduceus of the healer, exactly. So it is really, we have been, I think part of our job is deconstruction.
Yeah.
Part of our job is reconstruction. And it is a little like flying an airplane while you're building it,
Mm-hmm.
But that's exactly what we have to do at this point. And we have to hurry because of what I said about it, evolution and adaptation.
Yeah. Well, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, spiritual evolution, with all the rest of it goes along with that. And these cycles, I see it as a spiral. Speaking of snakes and energy coming out of the earth, comes in a spiral very often. And we're somewhere on that spiral, this learning curve of how to be both individually and collectively. And, I look for where there are signs of hope. I mean, I don't mean, no pun intended, but, where there are these glimmers of light. And you've seen such a life, you've had such a life. So tell us about your glimmers of light right now.
Well, look, there's hope because there is, I hate the term woke because
I do too.
grammatical and it's silly, but we are awakening from a domination trance, and at least some of us are clinging to it, and religion, unfortunately, as you said, it was also with this guy on top, right? That has affected everything. But I see hope everywhere, and I see it in young people particularly, but I also see it in people my age. I mean, young and old, we can do something. It's our job to do something.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we really need to get religions to do, because there are progressive religions and progressive leaders in religions, have them get together and sort in our scriptures
Yes.
the chaff, the core, the teachings of interconnection, of love, of caring, of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Are parts of really most world religions.
Yes. Yes.
From the chaff which was added by well-meaning people, some of them, and some not so well-meaning, to cement and to brainwash us
Yes.
into thinking that the only possibility is some version, whether it's capitalism or socialism. I mean, socialism in the former USSR turned into the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Yeah.
And it was a mess.
Yeah.
So this is a distraction, and it gets us to fight one another.
That's right. That's right.
And it really, this is not about fighting, it's about rebuilding.
Yeah. You mentioned about language and the power of language. And recently, my friend Jan gave me the one person's transcription or translation from the Aramaic of the Lord's Prayer. And it's partnership all the way. It is so different. And so it's got so much emotion in it and subtlety. And it's so inclusive, So even just the language, as you say, it makes it can.
We have all inherited, except for the Basque and Indo-European languages, because they conquered.
Yeah.
They just went, whether it was the Hittites or the Assyrians. In one of his last books, Samuel Noah Kramer, who's a great Sumerologist, used my framework. It's a book that he wrote how the Lugal, the rise of the big man, the Lugal, really changed everything.
Interesting.
Yeah, but and even in the hymns of Inanna, you see there is a tradition. She wanted to marry a farmer, but her brother insisted that she marry a herder. And yet,
why? What was better about the herder?
well, because the herders were the ones who came in to conquer.
Ah. Did she do that? I forget.
Yes, she did. She married the Mutsi, but he was still her consort. And they together went into the underworld where her sister.
That's right.
reigned, and they came back.
Right.
It is really a very different hero's journey with a heroine. and a group.
Yeah. I love the underworld stories, both in Greek mythology and Inanna. That's right. Because that's really a metaphor for our subconscious, right? In going into the depths of ourselves. Anyway, listen, I want to make sure we have a chance for people to ask a few questions. That's one of the reasons I like to do these live, because most podcasts, that you just watch them and then you're done and you can't say, wait a minute, what did you mean by that? So would anybody like to ask Riane or give a reflection to Riane? You can put your little hand up and that'll put you on the top of the screen. At least it should.
Well, I can't believe that you don't have any questions.
I can't either because there's a lot.
I think we've left you speechless.
That's seriously, nobody, people are saying beautiful conversation and all of that, but, all right, well, you're getting Jan. Yay, Jan.
Well, my goodness, we're in the presence of greatness, and just the idea that one small action can change the world. And I think the importance of continuing to, oh, I'm sorry. Am I working again?
Yeah, could you say that again, please?
One small action can change the world. And we have to truly believe in taking all of our actions, because all of us together make a huge effect. And when brilliant people write books, the rest of us really benefit. So thank you for all your work. And thank you, Hope, for bringing this presence to us in your work and the work we've all done together.
Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate that. And you're so right. We can all do something to spread that there is an alternative. It's a partnership alternative. It's not ideal. It's not completely violence-free. Once in a while, we lose it. But it doesn't have to be built into the system to maintain these rankings of domination, because power is, if you have a copy of The Chalice and the Blade, you know that the figure it has gone through 3 covers, and I've written 3 epilogues, including one for the 30th anniversary of the book. So be sure to get one, because that epilogue takes it up to the Trump days in the United States.
Oh, awesome.
So get a new copy. But there is a goddess, a bird goddess on the cover. And she is both male, she is phallic, but she has breath. And that's interconnection. And it's not only our interconnection, male and female and everybody in between, but also the interconnection with nature. I mean, she's a bird goddess.
Oh.
And the title, the chalice and the blade, they're really 2 ways of looking at power. They're not feminine and masculine, although women do have built into our bodies the capacity to give life. Oh, and by the way, science is not immune. You can't really believe the whole of science either, because until, the late 1800s, science held that woman doesn't have some genes. Did you know that?
No.
And woman is just the container for the male gene.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was science, okay? So today, science is very, very, very much fragmented, and very humanities are old, white, bearded men.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I wrote go to my website, rianeeisler.com. We're building a new website. It's part of the legacy that I want to leave. And but it hasn't been built yet, so we haven't combined the two websites yet. But you can go to them, but read my books because they're really it's a different way and a far more hopeful way.
And they're very, you really go into what science there is. You talk about DNA, you talk about neuroplasticity, you talk about how the brain develops. It's so comprehensive. And how you walk around, and I guess that's the systems part. But you really do walk around the topic beautifully. It's inspiring. It's very inspiring. So if you haven't read any of the 17 books, I'm going to pick, I've read Chalice and the Blade, of course, but I'm going to pick up the latest one next, because that sounds fantastic.
And read because we must change the economic system.
Yes.
We really need to give reward value to caring for people, starting at birth, and caring for our Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Of
You
which
know,
we're all a part.
I remember when I had my 2 babies under 2, and I was a mom later, in my late 30s. And I turned 16 when, people were burning bras, and all of a sudden, women's lib was in full motion. And so nobody ever said to me as a career choice, you could just be a mom. Like nobody, that was not in the discussion. And I remember that I had these 2 babies, and I'm like, why isn't there an equally, respected avenue that is raising your children? I mean, this is the biggest job I've ever had. And nobody, it wasn't valued. It wasn't even in the conversation.
And now we have materials for training people to be parents.
Thank God.
Mothers and gay couples, everybody. But for a long, long time, we didn't. And so we passed on, the spanking. We had a summit, by the way, Peace Begins at Home, showing how violence in the home normalizes violence.
Yes. And that includes violence they see on screens.
And absolutely true. But every one of us can has more of a say in changing the violence at home.
Definitely.
And that is what we've started with, which, of course, is the first cornerstone. And we have to, even the American Psychological Association said finally that spanking is not only ineffective, because, bad children are spanked, right? Quote, bad, but it is a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, children become, quote, bad by spanking, but that it is harmful.
Yes. Oh,
And yet 80 to 90% of parents globally, I mean, the United Nations believe in spanking.
still today.
Still today.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Unfortunately, so we've got to change that.
Yeah.
But there's so much you can do. You can mobilize. See, even I am, and mobilize is a word that you can appeal to religious leaders to get together to sort the chaff from the grain in our scriptures, because the chaff is being used against us.
Yes. Yes. Very much.
So we have to do it.
Yeah.
But there's so much, I mean, just using the new old language, really, because as long as we stay with right, left, religious, secular, capitalist, socialist, east, west, north, south, it turns up against one another,
Mm-hmm.
among other things. And anyway, it's just partial.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you one on one. I'm really honored, and I know we all are. And your vast understanding has led the way, for so many people, and inspired so many women, but also men, and in a different way to think about things. And obviously, you've been given medals and so on, so I don't need to say it, but I'm just going to add my voice to the crowd here and say thank you very, very much, Riane.
Well,
You're a legend.
thank you. And thank you all. Oh, thank you, Jan. Um, thank you all being here and for being really agents of transformation. Bye bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming, and we will see you next time on Infinite Wisdom. And okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye, Riane.
Bye bye, my dear.